and welcome to the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Tonight is Wednesday, November 28th, 2018. Can we please begin by pledging allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is to put our agenda in order. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to pull from the agenda? And can I please have a motion to accept the agenda? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Thank you. Okay. Now we are on to donations. And our first donation is from the Bank of America. It's I'm sure, a matching donation of $64 as a matching donation. So we thank whoever gave the donation to be used at Blue Mountain Middle School. Our second donation is from the Portland Rotary, who generously every year gives dictionaries or thesauruses for our 5th grade students and 3rd grade students. So we thank them for always being so generous and donating to our students. Thank you very much. Could I please have a motion to accept the donations? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're on to audience comments, hearing of non-agenda items. Each speaker is permitted 3 minutes for their comments and will be recognized by Roseanne. Please, if you wish to address the board, you have to sign in. Did anybody sign in?
Not that I know of. No.
Okay. Well, I will still, the board will listen to comments and input, but will not necessarily debate or discuss items. Operational matters will be directed towards school administration for handling. The board is not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters in open session, so we do not want any names of any individuals or specific instances being discussed at our board meeting. And that is that. That being said, anybody? Thank you. Next, we have the superintendent's report.
Yeah, a couple updates before we turn it over to our presenters. I handed out for the board and left a few copies over on top of the printer. Our full slate of winter concerts. Yes, it is that time of year, and the concerts start as early as next week. Frank G kicks us off on December 6th. So almost every night of the week, Monday through Thursday. If you're looking for something to do and want to get in the festive spirit, I bet if you go to any one of our 5 schools, you may see a concert. We also have musicals, the middle school musical taking place on December 7th and 8th, as well as the high school winter musical on January 11th and 12th. So we hope you can get out and watch our kids perform and see what they've been up to the first 40% of the school year. With that being said, our winter athletics season has also begun. Competition has started in some sports. Hockey began on Tuesday. Basketball and bowling also started on Tuesday. Basketball starts on Wednesday, or I'm sorry, on Friday with various tournaments. So again, you will start to see parking lots full of cars and games taking place in evenings and certainly on weekends. Wrestling tournaments, cheer tournaments, a whole lot of things. The Monday before Thanksgiving, I attended a meeting with Linda Puglisi, our town supervisor. She scheduled a meeting with Peter Harkman. Peter Harkman is the senator-elect, state senator-elect for our region. He defeated Terrence Murphy. And so Linda and I had a meeting with Mr. Harkman to share all of our interest and all of the happenings with regards to Indian Point and our advocacy efforts. We beat him up pretty good to see what his interests were and positions on Indian Point were. It will be interesting to see what happens. The Democrats are now in complete control of all things New York State government, so we'll see what that means for school funding. We'll see what that means for Indian Point plans and financial help. But he appeared to be very astute to the issues we're confronting. We shared contact info, and we'll be meeting with him quite regularly. With that being said, I want to thank our current senator, whose term will expire after December, Terrence Murphy, for his support and assistance. He has been very, very good to our school district in terms of delivering aid, delivering bullet aid. Bullet aid is a government word for funding for special projects. And regardless of your political affiliation or his, he worked very, very tirelessly for us as a school organization, and we're very thankful for his support. He delivered a lot of very big wins for our district, especially given Indian Point's closure announcement almost 2 years ago. Our capital project is moving along, even though you may not see evidence of it. We are on the doorstep of submitting all of our plans for Phase 1 to the State Education Department. Phase 1 includes our track and field work, includes work at all 5 schools in terms of their entrance and security upgrades, as well as a new maintenance facility. So that project will go up to State Ed very, very shortly. We'll get into a Q&A with them so they can understand what we're doing, what we're thinking, and why. And then we will go through the long process of the review and approval. While that's taking place in Albany, when we come back from the new year, we'll begin Phase 2 of the design phase. Phase 2 includes the auditoriums at the high school and the middle school, as well as some classroom renovations, as well as some HVAC and other improvements that need to be made throughout the district that the voters approved. So that design element or phase in the project will take place after the new year. And we'll keep everyone apprised to our timelines and developments, but we're still aiming to stick a shovel in the ground as soon as our school year lets out, so we can turn those facilities around for September of 2019.
Thank you. Okay, next we have committee reports, but if it is acceptable to the board, I would like to have our presenters go first, and then we will do our committee reports afterwards. So first on our list are the Hendrick Hudson Sailor Program members, so they will be presenting the program.
So we are very fortunate tonight to have our high school sailor program here. And we brought the entire team because it is a team approach at the high school. This class has been operating 2 years, but you would think it's been going all of its life. We have a full class as of now. When we started in September, I think we had 7. We just got a new student, so we are up to full capacity in the room. We have begun to branch out to doing a lot of jobs, and we are actually talking about next year, what does it look like for our students that are coming from the middle school, and how do we help the kids ready that are the 18 to 21 year olds? What is the next step for them? So I'm going to introduce the team. We have Christina Field, who's the classroom teacher, Casey Howe, who is our speech language pathologist and also our AT guru, Kylie Cole, who is our BCBA, Diana Palmisano, who is our PT, and Jess Van Valkenburg, who is our OT and also our AT guru as well. They took it upon themselves. They did an amazing presentation. I'm going to let them speak. I'll interject when we need to start talking about next year, but you guys can take it away. I guess I should run the... Do you have the clicker? Oh, good. Jessica did it. And then I'm sorry, we also have Ramona. I thought everybody knew Ramona.
Oh, yeah, Ramona. Yes, we met Ramona.
Yeah, she's down here.
You can meet her again. We'll make sure we
Thank you, yes.
You may or may not hear her whining. She kind of feeds a little bit off of my anxiousness, so she may or may not start whining. So I'm Christina Field. I'm the lead teacher of the Sailor program. I'm going to go over a little bit about the background, and then I'm going to turn it over to all of my colleagues so we can talk about how we work together. So the first thing is Sailor. It's really cool because it goes with everything HED, but it actually stands for Social, Academic, Independent Living, Occupation, and Recreation Program. And I like to use that to describe sort of the pillars by which we stand on. We touch on every single one of those aspects when we're providing our students instruction, and we always keep those domains in mind when we plan going forward. That being said, our program goal is to provide students with the instruction and experience necessary to promote maximum independence post-21. Anyone who's sort of spent any time in our classroom knows that independence is the one and only thing that we sort of focus on. So like Lisa said, we were established in 2016-17 school year, but we are actually a part of the ABC program that you'll find at Frank G. Lindsay and the middle school, but at the high school we call ourselves the Sailor program.
Breathe. It's okay. Breathe.
It's me, but she'll calm down. It's also late for her. She's like, oh, you brought me to the high school and there's no students here. So in the 2 years, we've doubled in size with 3 of our students coming in from out of district. And in those 2 years, we've also established a functional academic curriculum, which is based off New York State alternate assessment standards, established community-based instruction, and created job sites for our students within the community.
I know.
And that's us. That's us at our Thanksgiving feast.
This is us.
I did want to take a minute because this is a very small piece of who we are. The people that aren't in this picture but that have had a direct hand in this program are Dr. Lupiani, Deb Cardenas, Brad Fredman, all my staff, Patty Kehoe, Julie Murphy, Patricia Fay, Mr. Mackin, Jean Gizmervik, and Lisa, all contributing members to why we've been so successful. And also, she's never pictured, but Mrs. Laker is our photographer. She knows how to capture a really good moment. She's the reason why we're able to have a lot of these memories to reflect back on. So I wanted to make sure I acknowledged all of them, because I would be lost without every single person on this team. All right, so our program model. We are an 812. That means there's 8 students, 1 teacher, and 2 assistants. We use research-based practices. So our program is generally rooted in applied behavior analysis. So in addition to the functional academics curriculum, we've also recently launched the direct instruction program. And what that is, it's breaking down a bigger academic concepts that you would find in your traditional sort of classrooms into smaller steps that they repeat over time, and they employ the use of behavioral momentum so our students find success. We also started and launched this year the Essentials for Living curriculum in conjunction with the Carbone Clinic. They come in. And what that is, an assessment tool to identify barriers to student independence. So we administer the assessment, we identify some barriers to independence, and then it essentially prescribes a series of teaching strategies that we can use to sort of break down those barriers and increase that independence. And this is a partnership, like I said, through Carbone, and it's from K to 12, so ABC and the Sailor program. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to our assistive tech team. We do a lot of technology in the classroom, and I feel like they can better speak to that.
Sure. So myself, speech therapist, and Jess were both part of the assistive technology team here in the district. And both of us being part of this team and being in the Sailor program has really helped bring into like that interdisciplinary approach within the Sailor program for assistive technology. As far as high tech goes, we utilize Chromebooks multiple times a day. We use the Google Read and Write program, which gives students an ability to do text-to-speech, speech-to-text, and really helps them access the curriculum where previously, if they were just using pen and paper, it's more difficult for them. I've also implemented alternative communication systems for students to help them become a more independent communicator. And you know, by collaborating with Christina and everybody on the team, if myself and Jess aren't there, because we're such a collaborative program, you know, everybody knows how to use it. So they can always assist students or assist maybe a one-to-one or a need that is not as familiar. So it's really great that we can implement it in a collaborative way. I'm going to let Jess kind of talk about the OT-PT kind of aspect, more low tech.
So basically, the other thing we've been addressing too is executive functioning deficits in our students. I mean, we see that, especially kids in our program, they lack those higher level thinking skills. So utilizing the assistive tech means either high tech or low tech. And you know, when we're talking about the high tech, Casey, you know, touched upon those things, but as little as like sticky notes, you know, can help them with executive functioning. The other thing is we've been working in collaboration with Diana in regards to individualized seating plans for every student in our classroom. So we're looking for postural control and things like that, and also addressing their sensory needs. So we have all different flexible seating options in the classroom that address those needs. Yeah.
Sure. So now we're going to elaborate a little bit more on the collaborative approach. You'll hear us say it over and over again, but it really is what makes our program unique and stand out. You can go see a lot of programs that offer or service rather students like ours, but none that quite have the level of collaboration that we do, and it's why it is so successful. So again, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Howe.
So as far as speech goes, I'm in the classroom 5 days a week, whether it's seeing groups or individuals, and we collaborate in a variety of ways, whether it's me and Christina co-teaching a lesson to the whole class. A lot of the times we'll break up into dyads where I'll see 2 students, Christina will be with them, maybe Jess is in the room seeing a student or 2, and the rest are with a TA, for example. Sorry, I lost my train of So I always am working on functional communication and functional language skills with our students. I try and get out into the community with them during our community-based instruction trips, where I'm working on, you know, the skill of ordering, communicating during a purchase of an item. And I also try and go to job sites with the students, so working on the social skills, being able to talk with a boss, talk with maybe a customer, something like that. So I always try and work what we're doing in the classroom out into the community as far as speech and language goes.
And in regards to OT, I'm actually in the classroom about 3 days a week. And in that time, I'm really working on maximizing the independence of our students, really honing in on those activities of daily living and the instrumental activities of daily living, both in the school community and off-site, you know, in our community programs that we're doing. Right now, you know, I think the biggest, most amazing part of our program is the collaboration, because the strategies or the things that we talk about with our students is getting followed through throughout all domains. So, you know, whether it's a TA working with the student or Diana working with the student or the teacher, you know, it's being followed through. So the success rate and them achieving their goals and maximizing their independence is getting done so much quicker than just pulling a student out of that classroom.
So I'm in the classroom 2 mornings a week. As a group, we call ourselves SPATOT, which stands for Speech, PT, OT, and both teachers that are in the room. We work to improve, all of us together work to improve motor planning, sequencing, and timing for all of our students. This collaboration also allows us to use a common language so that this language can be carried over. Now, this is my anxiety. Feeling my anxiety right now. That can be carried over between disciplines and teachers when we're not all together. So for example, you know, I may use a common language of, that's right, to our students that not a tornado but a breeze, which, you know, moves slower, essentially that's what that means, and we all carry that over, and it works throughout the, you know, throughout the day. I also work on scanning the environment and grading our movements. For example, when we're in the kitchen, we take for granted the amount of times we throw a cabinet open and not realize that somebody might be behind that cabinet door. So we have to work on the small things, being able to grade our movements, scan our environment, being able to use proper body mechanics and postural control when we're grabbing items from a counter, from a cabinet, from the floor, in a lower cabinet. We also work on positioning, body mechanics, when we're doing all of these things, because our goal is to optimize function. I also, an area that I really focus a lot on with the students is negotiating the school building and the environment. One of the things that I try to, you know, show the students is that, you know, we go from point A to point B, but there's not always one way. Because in life, we can't always go from point A to point B. There might be an obstacle. We might have a fire drill in the building where we can't go that way. What is another way? And for a lot of our students, it's very difficult for them to do. And when we do have to find another way, what in our environment will give them clues of different directions they can go. Is it an exit sign? Is it, another hallway, that we can maybe see what's going on down there? So I always really try to do that. And we carry that also over into the community. Whether we're in a grocery store and it's Thanksgiving and the aisles are packed and you cannot get through, what else can we do in that situation? When we're negotiating outside, we also talk a lot about, negotiating a parking lot. You don't realize a lot of the things that go on in a parking lot, the lights on the back of the cars. What do we see? Standing on a sidewalk, walking on a sidewalk. Who's safer, me or you, if I'm closer to a building? Look at the street signs. What do? When we come to a crosswalk, we may have to look left or right, but what about the cars that are behind us? And nowadays, we want to make sure they understand that we need to look everywhere because you never know what's going on with people that are driving in their cars. If they're paying attention the way they should be, we have to walk around our environment defensively. We need to know what we need to do in those situations. So, basically the benefit that I found with our collaborative setting is that all of the different areas, they come together to teach the students the skills necessary for optimal function post-21. And that's really what we look for.
All right. So I'm in the classroom at least 2 periods a day teaching job skills, but I'm also the behaviorist, so I'm in there a little bit extra. So during job skills, each member of our team is instrumental in implementing and carrying over all the various skills required by our students, either on the job site or within the classroom. Each member has had an opportunity to come on the job sites and help pinpoint certain skills, like Ms. House said, communicating with your boss, remaining appropriate, engaging in those social skills with people that might be in the job site. And then during this time, we're also, again, able to demonstrate the language that we use with our students so that when they are not present, I know, okay, so this is how we're implementing this is how we're doing this, so that when they're not there, it still is carried over. And then the other successful part about having everyone on the job sites is pinpointing the areas of need and bringing those activities back into the classroom and really honing in on those skills and practicing those skills, whether it's folding pizza boxes or sorting silverware, those types of things, just so we can really build those skills necessary for successful jobs post-21.
Part of Kylie's other position, part of the behaviorist piece of it, is she's also having conversations or meeting with parents within the classrooms. So she's also using the same language that they're taking into the home, so it's consistent. So they're using the same language that they are at school, and it's really helping the parents learn those skills as well.
Right, and carry over everything that we're doing so that once the students get home and they're not with us all day long, the parents can still follow through our plans and what's working and what we see successful in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just an example of, just kidding, there it is. Some of the stuff that we do. So these are often taken in our top groups. You'll see Ms. House using both instructional and assistive tech up there in the front with the student. Oh, there you go.
There, look at that.
Assistive tech.
Yep.
Yeah, we have.
And then and Ms. House is going to speak about this a little later, but this is about our business, and our students are actually creating their business plan in this photo. So another big part of our program is community-based instruction, or CBI as it's called, and the sole purpose of it is to promote generalization for what we teach in the classroom, in the community, because again, our main goal is to create maximum independence for all of our students. So it's useless if we just practice this in the classroom. I can contrive with so many situations. Being out in the community, we're able to troubleshoot right in that moment, bring it back, teach it, and then we head back out into the community. We go out to the community about once a month. Some months it's twice, depending on, honestly, the amount of school instructional days we have. But they include all those places you see there, Cortland Town Center. For our Thanksgiving feast, our students were responsible for purchasing all the items, shopping, and that's pretty much what we do there. It also includes the recreational piece, which I believe if you hit the clicker, you'll see my friend up in the front. Just kidding, he's there though. But this is an example of our very lush garden that we have at the high school. We go out to restaurants practicing making orders, budgeting for that, and then what you can't see necessarily here is our recreational trips. Again, they're a big part of our program. You don't realize how many hours a day you spend in leisure skill. And while they may come very easy to most of us in this room, they do not come easy to the students in my classroom. So they are very much a part of what we do because we want to give them optimum quality of life post-21.
So back to our job sites. Some of the things that we do is work-based learning and making sure we have those job skills so that when they leave us, they can hold a job. So some of the places that we are right now, Avelinos down the street, we go and we fold pizza boxes, we sort and wipe down silverware, roll silverware, fill up the napkin trays, and some of the skills we practice there are, again, communicating with our boss, remaining appropriate, making sure that our language is appropriate for the work site, and again, using all that language, communicating with our peers, making sure that we are remaining appropriate with our peers and saying, okay, can you help me with this, or I need help with this, and that's where Ms. Howe comes in and makes sure we are on target. We also are at the library now, and we've created in our classroom for the students who aren't ready to go out onto the job sites, we've created like a mock library where we have a shelf where they can alphabetize the books, organize the books, and then for our students that are ready and out on the job site, they are at the library, again, engaging with the staff there, sorting books, stocking the books, cleaning up the shelves, making sure everything looks great. And then Frank G. Lindsay and Frank's Woods, we go and do copying, mailing, sorting, any tasks that teachers have for us, any office work that we can handle, we help out. Laminating services, and the school spirit store. So the store, the students practice money skills, stacking and keeping inventory, and then laminating services, we have a super high-tech laminator in the classroom, and yeah, it can laminate really large items. So people come in with their posters, and the kids love to laminate and then trim it, and they get so proud of their final product.
OCD kids.
And then the garden. I was only there for part of the garden, but our tomatoes and peppers were of abundance this year.
And one thing about the garden is we've been working with Claire Carey on doing farm to table. So every now and then you'll see a featured item in the high school sort of salad bar. We did radishes, we did tomatoes, and then at any given point you'll smell the awesomeness that comes from the room based on a recipe we find out.
We did guacamole and salsa in the beginning of the school year, and it was
So we actually met, Christine and I met with Jill down at the library, and we had a long conversation of they were losing pages. Is that what you said they were losing?
Yeah.
So they were losing pages, and they were wondering if we could help. So we actually brought the library. Jill got a whole bunch of discarded books, videos, children's books, all types of things that I brought back to the high school so Christina and her team could practice to go in and assist the librarians. So we send 2 kids down.
We send 2 kids. Yeah.
2 kids down, and they're pretty independent, and they're pretty verbal, and they like to talk a lot, and they're very social, so they're very appropriate for that job. So that is our goal, is to really start thinking about how can we help these students as they get closer and closer to 21, because we have about 4 ready to hit that next level of services, and we need to figure out how we can assist with them in conjunction with the parents, in conjunction with OPWDD, and making sure that we're all talking to one another.
So again, this is some of the photos of us in action, folding boxes at Avelinos. That to the bottom right is a picture, sort of an assembly task that we would do when we go to Frank G, counting out objects and bundling them for delivery. One thing I wanted to add here is in our collaborative nature, we work very much with the providers outside of the high school. So we have several students that come to us from out of district. And as a result of our collaborative approach here and our collaborative approach there, we do have one student who is gainfully employed outside. He works at a pizzeria, his local pizzeria, doing the very thing he does here, and he makes an hourly wage that he's very proud of. So that just goes to show this full continuum and how we've been trying to promote that independence.
So Christina, Jess, Jean, and myself, we went to a work-based learning professional development at BOCES. It was 2 days, and we learned about various resources for our students and various work-based learning opportunities. And one thing that came up during this professional development course was creating a school-based enterprise, which was something we had discussed, but this course really gave us kind of the tools to really start it up. So what we did after the course, we kind of went back to Kylie since she is our job skills teacher, and we kind of brainstormed a little bit, and then we got our students involved, and we said, okay, we're going to start a business. And so we had a nice brainstorming session with our students, and our general consensus was that all of our students love animals, and obviously we have Ramona here. So the students and us, we all came up with an idea to start a business making dog treats. So that's what we had started, and so we brainstormed and we came up with a name for our company, and it's called Dogs Can Just Enjoy. And then acronym is actually, all the letters are the first letter of each of our students' names, so it has a little sentimental part of it too. So what we've been doing is we've developed a business plan. We have a whole Google Classroom just for the business. Our students have done research on advertising, on
Recipes.
They did research on all the recipes, and so they've really been involved in this business since the beginning. We have some samples in the back. We even have, I know you're going to talk about our teachers involved and things like that. So it's been really great. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so definitely we brought home the dog treats, just so you know, and all our family dogs enjoyed them, so it's a success. But basically we're working on those job skills post-21 that our students need to gain, right? So when we're talking about that, we started with the, like Casey said, we started with that business plan, right? Like going through every area, like how are we going to sell, or how are we going to offer these to the staff? What are we going to do? How are we going to present this? And then we started making the recipes. We went shopping for the items. Then we started sequencing out how we need to put them together. Then we started packaging with them. Then we started collaborating with the art teacher in the high school to create labels, to make them fancy, put in the ingredients. So our students were involved through all of these steps, and now they're taking inventory of the items and then carrying it through. And then going forward, we're actually in the beginning stages of working with the middle school, because I also work in the middle school. So we're bringing it down there and working with Mrs. Large and Mrs. Krause on that side, in working on making dog bandanas. So then we can couple both of the ideas together, and then we can get that team building between the two buildings of the children speaking to one another, and then offering it to the staff both at the middle school and the high school. And then eventually we'd like to bring it down to the elementary schools if possible, because we have the ABC, children located at Frank G and things like that. So it's, it's really exciting, and it's, brand new, and the kids are right on board with us. So, it's awesome.
And so far we have 2 businesses that will house some of our dog treats. Park Avenue and Croton Pet Station are going to
Cool.
advertise.
Great.
And again, so this was an example of during, I'm sure, one of our Spatot groups, and you can't see all of us, but we're there, but they were very much a part of the business plan. We just helped drive the ship, but they absolutely picked the recipes and any design we've had so far. They were very excited to pick the cookie cutters. That was definitely a winner. But this is all done. We're just facilitating this experience. Okay, so now we can talk about our needs for the upcoming school year.
So yeah, next year we're looking probably having to add another class, because we'll be out of compliance with the middle school kids coming up, because we can't be more than 36 months. After 16 it doesn't matter, but you can't have a 14-year-old with a 17-year-old. So we actually have started laying out what that class looks like, and it's actually really interesting to see the numbers on both ends. We would split the class, but we're going to bring 2 or 3 kids up from high school. So the lower class, the sailor class, would basically be full. And again, we'd advertise out to other districts, because I think we're ahead on a lot of different areas compared to other districts as far as the program and what they're able to do within the community. And we have some ideas on how to get some more job sites. We've already started talking to transportation. What does that look like for us? Can we have a bus available every day if we have 2 or 3 kids going out, and what are the hours? So we've already started having conversations. We really want to talk about those 18 to 21-year-olds, getting them ready for jobs. What does that look like? That means you're probably only in the classroom for about 2 hours a day. The rest of the time that you would be out in the community doing some sort of work base or learning some skill. So that's what our task is right now, is to find enough places for that. So I know Kylie has found a couple places. We still have the library. I'm sure they'll take a couple more kids. But it's really us starting to have those conversations now as we look at that. And working closely with Carbone. If you're not sure who Carbone is, Carbone Clinic is very worldly renowned. Dr. Vincent Carbone has started schools from here to whatever country he's in now. What?
He's in Dubai.
I was gonna say, I thought he was in Dubai. So he's in Dubai now, but we work very closely with Gina, and you guys have Danielle, and we have Linda. So Gina is Dr. Carbone's go-to person. We have 2 consultants that come in half days, 1 half day with Christina a month, and we really talk about how do we get those post-21 skills built up so these kids will get a place to go and they're not stuck at home and they're not stuck in an institution. What can we do to help them? So that's really going to be our goal for our next set of, our next class that we really have to look at and develop for next year. The Essentials for Living curriculum is very big because it's all the essentials that Dr. McGreevy had a very disabled child. He wrote the book. I actually got to consult with him when I was at BOCES. It was really cool. He took some of our ideas, integrated them in the second edition because there wasn't enough PT in there. Now in the new edition, there's more PT. So really getting the skills in, because when they hit 21, they get no more services. There's absolutely no more related services. There's no more one-to-ones. It's your 15 adults with 1 supervisor. That's it. And it doesn't matter where you go. That's about the limit of what they allow out of the high schools. So we are actually going to go see a program that I used to have at BOCES. It's under ARC now, but it was under BOCES, and it was Project Search. It was only for autistic students. Now they're taking other students, from my understanding. So we're going to go meet with them. They are located on New York Presbyterian in the CABI Center, which is Center for Autistic Brain. And they actually do rotations on 10 weeks and get kids in and teach them the skills, the soft skills. So we're going to talk to Nancy, who is the teacher, and really come up with some ideas so we can create our own class.
Ramona like to add anything?
She's out. She's sleeping. She's done.
Long day.
She's had enough. I know. That's how I feel.
All right.
The kids wear her out.
We got too much energy over here.
Any questions for Lisa?
I'm very impressed to see some of the things that are going on in the Sailor program. I especially love the collaboration, and not only with students and all of you within the program, but with the different schools being involved with Blue Mountain, and now talking about bringing the elementary students involved. I know some of you, and I know how diligently you work with students and how much you really, really care. So I thank you for all of your efforts, your compassion, and your diligence, that you don't give up and you're constantly thinking, along with Lisa, of new things that we can implement. I know last year when I first saw the video of the children working at young people, young adults working in Avelina's, it really was very emotional to see that and to think of how far some of these kids have come. Yeah. So, as I said, I am extremely impressed.
A number of months ago, Lisa and I met with Dennis Males, who owns the Body Shop down the street, but also is the president of the Montrose Business Association, essentially the little group of 20, 25 businesses in our little hamlet that advocate and try to do community events. And we met with him to get into the Montrose Business Association to introduce this program and the students and some of the potential partnerships. And it was amazing just to watch him understand what this program is and how important it is to not only them and their businesses, but the connection and the partnership between the school district and any of those businesses. Now, a Body Shop may not be the best fit, but he gave us a plethora of other folks to talk to, more than we were ready to. But to see a community member and small business owner light up at the prospect of this program and giving kids an opportunity to learn these very, very important skills was was amazing. So
And I think from that we got several emails, but again,
Yeah.
we were not ready to. We didn't think we'd get the response,
Right.
and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, let's start with the library. That's a known thing, and we know we can do that. So I'm hoping that probably in the next couple months we'll be reaching out and visiting and really talking to some more business owners that had reached out to us and said and say, what can we do for you?
Yeah.
Because that's really our next step.
And then it's sort of to piggyback on what you guys were saying, we've also reached out to the districts, our neighboring districts, so we now have a relationship with Lakeland, Irvington, Putt Valley, I think. Just to create a social network, not only for our students, but our families, so that way, it can be a little bit isolating to be in a program like this, so if we can create any sort of environment where they all feel safe. So one of the things we're gonna look at is start a bowling league with, where we get together once a month with the neighboring districts, so.
And we could sell dog treats. To the other districts. There you go.
We're hoping for a prom too.
Yes, we are really.
There you go.
Christine and I have thrown together a prom before, so I am
All right.
convinced we got this.
Any other questions for the team?
We do.
All right. Thank you so much.
Nice
That's
job.
good.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh,
You can leave Ramona here if you want. We'll take her home.
All right.
To go home.
Our next presenter did not bring a dog, so we'll have to. Yes, we'll still
But
give
maybe
him
he
our.
has a dog and he wants to buy.
Well, next time.
I have a three-legged dog.
Okay, all right. Bring any animal next time. Chris Kehoe is Director of Planning with the Town of Cortland, and he is a member of many of our different task forces and our advocacy efforts dealing with post-Indian Point. And he has been on tour lately, and I caught him at one of our task force meetings sharing this presentation with everyone and anyone who will listen to talk about some long-range and perhaps more strategic, a more strategic financial approach in response to Indian Point. And Chris and the town board and Linda Puglisi and all of the different committees that help make this work happen have been very, very diligent with trying to identify property in our school district or close to our school district that we could aggressively seek approval and some financial support from the state to develop or redevelop so we can create additional tax revenue to combat the revenue loss, obviously, through the Indian Point pilot. So he has some really great commentary and some really neat slides in terms of area views to show you and some of the ideas that the town's thinking about to bolster some economic development in our district, but in the town of Cortland. So, Chris, thank you.
I've been with the town over 20 years, and you're all aware because you're local people, but the town of Cortland, Kruger's, Montrose, and Verplank are hamlets within the town of Cortland. So the planning and zoning district jurisdiction of the town of Cortland covers those hamlets as well as Mohegan Lake and what we call Cortland Manor. The village of Buchanan and the village of Croton-on-Hudson have their own planning and zoning, so we have no control over what they do in those communities. They have their own planning boards. Planners in general, we do both short-term things and long-term things. The short-term things are small subdivisions, site plans, approving commercial buildings, approving changes of use from one type of use to another. Then we also do long-range things, studies, park planning, sidewalks, things like that. And the other thing that you're all aware of, the town is very complicated. I've been here a long time, but there are also, as you know, 5 school districts that serve the town: Lakeland, Putt Valley, Croton, a little bit of Yorktown, and Hendrick Hudson. So all of these different development areas reside in different school districts. So that's something that we're very cognizant of, especially with Indian Point, trying to focus some of the development within the Hendrick Hudson School District. The way the planning works is you're supposed to have a long-range master plan just like the school district would. They're supposed to be adopted about every 10 years. So under Supervisor Puglisi, there have been 3, 1991, 2003, and the most recent one, Envision Cortland, which was adopted in 2016. We started working on this plan before anyone was aware that Indian Point was, the closure was so imminent. I think there had been some idea that something was going to happen. But the focus of the master plan was on economic development even before we knew that the plant was closing. The previous master plans were more focused on open space preservation and environmental rules and regulations. This one has more of an economic development theme to it. And the master plan was about a 2-year process, several meetings, public outreach events, surveys were sent out. The plan is on our town website. It has about 200 policies, and it's a long-range goal for the town. It doesn't have any force of law behind it, but it sets broad ideas of what we want to accomplish in a whole variety of topics. But in this particular master plan, you can see the 4 development strategies that we focused on. And they all come about, because it's one of the buzzwords now, from a sustainability perspective, trying to figure out how to make economic development be environmentally conscious. So you'll see a lot of sustainability verbiage through the plan. The Waterfront District, Transit District, Cortland Boulevard, and Medical-Oriented District. And those are the 4 areas. And you know better than I the boundaries of the Hendrick Hudson School District, but the 2 areas that are in the Hen Hud District are the Transit-Oriented District and the Waterfront Sustainability Area of Verplanck. There's another waterfront up in Ansville. That's the Lakeland School District, as well as the Medical-Oriented District in the Cortland Boulevard area. So after we adopted the plan, we have gone out and hired an economic development consultant that we've been working with for about a year. That's AKRF, they're out of White Plains in New York City, and then Kevin Dworka is their subcontractor. We've come up with a list of vacant and underutilized parcels. I'm always cautious with the list of vacant and underutilized parcels. If they're vacant now, there's probably a reason that they're vacant. A lot of them are heavily environmentally constrained, wetlands, steep slopes. As you probably well know, most of the town of Cortland does not have a central sewer system. It's very hard to develop when you don't have central sewers if you're on septic. So I have the list. The supervisor is always wanting me to share the list. I'm always a little hesitant because we haven't reached out and talked to all of the property owners. Sometimes people aren't really thrilled to find out that their property is on one of our lists. But it's really just a list that we work from, and most of the sites are well known. Our economic consultant has presented to the town board. In addition, they just presented Monday night. So we're trying to take this to the next stage and start wrapping it up. And we've met with several of the property owners. The idea behind the current economic development strategy is we're identifying the sites, generally speaking, in these 4 development areas, and then we're finding specific sites that we want to concentrate on, and then we're supposed to figure out a way to package and promote and actually get development to happen. So this is the Waterfront Sustainability District in Verplanck, which is in the Hen Hud School District. Verplanck is interesting. It has so much opportunity along the riverfront, and we've spent about 20 years, right when I got here back in the early 90s, so the mid-90s, they had just acquired what they call the Steamboat Riverfront Park, and we spent a lot of time with what we would call more passive development. River viewing areas, the Broadway overlook, all of the sidewalks and the paths through there, the fixing up of the steamboat dock. I think it was a little controversial, but we have finally relocated everyone from the trailer park. That took us a long time down there. They were permitted to stay. The town owned the property. They had a life estate, and they were permitted to stay until the owner died. And then when he died, they had 10 additional years, and it expired in 2016. And just within the past couple months, the last 2 people were relocated from the site. And that opens up another area for potential development. All of the stuff along the waterfront at the bottom of the parcel is owned by the town. Some of the other highlighted parcels are privately owned. We're really focusing some future development on what we would call the quarry site, which the town has acquired, which is above those 2 pink highlighted areas. And then those are some of these either vacant or underutilized parcels where we see possibilities for development. However, there's no sewer in Verplanck, and it's somewhat of a peninsula. There's only one way in and one way out. So there's always concerns with planning having to do with traffic, environmental problems, tree removal, stormwater, so it's never a linear path to get any of these things developed. This is up in Ansville, near the Ansville Circle, heading north either to Putnam County or going over to the Bear Mountain Bridge. That's the Lakeland School District. that's not the most attractive way to come into the town of Cortland. There's a lot of contractors' yards types uses in there. A lot of times contractor yards go to where there is no water and sewer. So in order to improve that area and get some different types of uses in there, we really need to get sewers, and sewers are incredibly expensive. So we need some grant help with that. This is, I think, the area that's most important to the Hendrick Hudson School District, is the transit-oriented district around the train station. Everyone, we're not breaking the mold here with planning strategy. Developing pedestrian-oriented mixed-use developments around train stations has been going on forever. We definitely want to see it here. Once again, though, most of these parcels are privately owned. A lot of them have industrial uses, which are hard to relocate to other places. You have the operating engineers use some of these as their training facilities. They're not going to want to pack up and have to find different places. But we find some potential. The town does own some property along Memorial Drive going into the train station. There are some vacant parcels in there. Many of you may be familiar with what we call the Watch Hill parcel. It's about 9 acres. It's always been owned by the Santucci family down. It's the lowest pink area, right above the word Google. But that's been split zoned, and that's been a problem. The front is commercial, the back is residential. Projects proposed on that site have been controversial in the past. We're always applying for grants. We're going to be constructing sidewalks in the area. As you know, the road has been dug up for a long time. It's been utility work, so the road is supposed to be repaved next year. The town can do some minimal things with streetscape improvements, and we do work with the Montrose Business Association, but larger scale projects and developments will once again require sewage, and that's complicated. We can try to coordinate with the Village of Buchanan. They have a treatment plant. There's some private treatment plants in there. The Round Top development has a package plant, so we're always looking at options in there. And then obviously what we would consider sort of our main commercial core in the town of Cortland, which is Route 6 or Cortland Boulevard. And just as an example in there, the Cortland Crossing Shopping Center, which has just opened up, it was estimated during the environmental analysis that total tax revenue to the town would be 1.1 to 1.3 million. And when we say tax revenue to the town, as you know, that large portion of that is to the school district. I think it's 70, 20, and 10 or something, the breakup. So those are the numbers that come in on these big types of projects. Route 6 has sewers in most of the areas. That's one of the reasons why it's easier to develop up there, and Route 6, as you know, has been widened over the years to be 4 lanes in many places. So the Cortland Crossing has just been finished. The other highlighted piece up there towards the top on the south side of Route 6 is what we call Pond View. That's been approved. It was old cabins which have been removed, and now it's proposed for 56 new units of housing. That other big shaded piece is what we would call the Mendelowitz property, but that is extremely steeply sloped and has been vacant forever, so that'll be difficult to redevelop. And obviously we've now turned our attention to backfilling the empty ShopRite store, since they just moved down the road to the new ShopRite store, which the new ShopRite store is wonderful, but we were a little disappointed that the main tenant in there was taking a tenant from just down the road. So we're focusing on that. And then this is the other big thing we've been working on for a long time. Once again, it's in the Lakeland School District, but when New York Presbyterian purchased the Hudson Valley Hospital Center, they brought many improvements to the site, new medical office building, many new doctors. So we figured, one of the interesting things about the hospital is zoned residential. So every time the hospital wants to do something, they have to come in and get a special permit. So we wanted to create this medical-oriented district around the hospital. Those highlighted parcels are actually have development proposals on them for 100,000 square feet of medical office, an assisted living facility, a hotel, a lot of residential units, maybe too many residential units, and some small-scale retail. They're currently working on their environmental impact statements on those projects, and we have some problems with Route 202. It's a state highway, so the state DOT has to approve everything, and it's a busy road with some traffic congestion. But the hope is maybe in 2019, some approvals could be given to some of those projects. This is the type of stuff we've been working on with our economic consultant. Just picking the sites, analyzing the sites. You're familiar with this. It's the train station. The roller hockey rink, which may be underutilized, which is on town property. Some of those other parcels, the small ones, are owned by the town. That's the former Bobby Tall property is what we call it, which is now sort of a staging area for some of the pipeline work. So we analyze these pieces with our economic consultant, try to come up with some ideas. This is real 10,000 level stuff, just ideas. The next stage is to get the consultant to actually start working on a one-to-one basis with the property owners. As I mentioned, backfilling the ShopRite site is something that we're really working on. The interesting thing about the ShopRite store is I believe ShopRite has to continue to pay the owner of that property for a couple more years, even though they've moved out of the site. So ShopRite would like a new tenant to get in there so ShopRite can stop paying, but the owner may not be as motivated as we would like. But some of these ideas, food halls, entertainment complexes, we're open to any ideas for the ShopRite site, and we're talking constantly with the owner of that property. And then this is up in Ansville. If you know Supervisor Puglisi, she's always wanted an ice skating rink in the town. So she's, every day we're mentioning the need for an ice skating rink. So this is just a conceptual rendering. That's what we would call the George Liasco's property. It's the Cortland Colonial restaurant is in the corner. He removed all the rock there years ago. This is just an idea that it could fit. We've talked with Mr. Liascos. Obviously, these things aren't, Mr. Liascos doesn't know anything about hockey rinks. If someone could build it on his property, he would work with us. He also, if he's going to cooperate with us on that, he'd like some residential units there. There are some sewer issues in this area. I mean, the treatment plant's pretty close, but some infrastructure would have to be put in. So we're working with Mr. Liascos on that parcel. And then we're a little farther along. This was pretty much the same thing that I did with the Indian Point Task Force back in July. We're a little further than this now, where we've actually picked the sites and are meeting with the property owners to try to get projects through the approval process. I think that's it.
What we've done is to leverage our relationship and access to a lot of very, very high-ranking state officials to try to fast-track some of these projects. Chris had mentioned, some of the drawbacks, or perhaps the most significant one is sewers. And so Chris's team and Linda Puglisi and the rest of the task force are trying to leverage the Indian Point issue as a way to fast-track approvals of state grants for sewer projects, so on and so forth. And not only fast-track them, but essentially rubber stamp them. Put us at the top of the pile, rubber stamp us, and let us get going. We need some help to kick off some of these projects, and that includes red tape approval. So far they've been listening, but there is a series of approvals and other steps, procedural steps that Chris mentioned in order to get some of these projects shovel ready.
Have there been any discussions down by the train station to put in any stores or, something that might draw more people into this area? I think if there was more for people to do sometimes, and you've got the train right there and accessibility,
That's exactly the issue that there's short-term issues and long-term issues. In the short term, a lot of those properties, are industrial in nature.
Right.
They're contractors' yards. And they're there for a reason, because there isn't the infrastructure there. So very small projects could redevelop those sites without the necessity of having sewer. But the longer range plan is to try to do the transit-oriented development. And you need someone to go first. And then the idea would be that some of these, what we would consider underutilized parcels, would then sell, and then you could get a big, larger scale redevelopment going. But we have met. It's never easy. We've had meetings with the Yellow House on the corner where the wall has collapsed right near the fire station there. There are problems with that site, but they're talking about a bank or something that they want to put there. And we meet almost every day, and for every 100 meetings we have with somebody, maybe 10 of them even make it to the planning board, and then only a couple of them end up going through the process. And that's what we're trying to change, to figure out a way to get more things going. But for everyone that wants a development, there's at least one person that doesn't want a development.
Right.
Not my
Well, there's pros and cons
Yes.
to all of it,
Yeah.
so.
Margaret saw her house on one of the slides and said, "Whoa, wait a minute, we're building a."
I won't object if you can get me sewers.
Well, and the other issue with sewers, though, too, is they're not free. So there's a huge upfront cost, and we bond for that, and then it's usually a 20-year bond, and then based on a formula, which I'm not an expert on, you have to pay back.
Yep.
And a lot of people then say, well, if my septic's working fine,
Why
I'll
should
stay
I
with my
bother?
septic.
Right.
What percentage of the town does
No,
have
not yet.
sewers?
It's really low. I think it's around 20%, and where the Peekskill sanitary sewage plant is, if you've ever been on the Bear Mountain Parkway, they're sort of parked by the Ennsville Circle. Sometimes you get a whiff of it, but that's where the plant is. So the northeast corner of the town, from Route 6 up to the Putnam County border, is pretty much in a county sewer district. That doesn't mean all of the properties in there have sewers, but if you're not in a county sewer district, you can't have sewers. You have to then be put in a county sewer district, which is a complicated procedure. So certain, when you get in the southern portion of the town, T-Town, Quaker Bridge, they don't have them, but that's less of an issue. It's really for the Kruger's, Montrose, Verplank hamlets, which are built up, and traditionally an area with this type of density would have sewers.
Yeah.
It's not the best place to have septic system
Right.
anymore.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chris? All right. Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
So as I said earlier, this is one of a couple of the stools on or legs on the stool in terms of how we respond to the financial impact of Indian Point. And there's hope, but there's still a process and approvals that we need to go through. But Chris and his team in the town are on it, so we look forward to some development.
Very good. Thank you
Have a good
so
night.
much for
Thank
coming
you.
out
Thank
tonight.
you.
Okay, now we have committee reports.
It's like a donut.
Anybody?
Since our last board meeting.
No.
Actually, it's a good thing because for kids who skate, it's very nice to get skating time.
There's nothing really to speak of, we're just, started
And all the train
the
stations.
groundwork and discussions for the budget.
Okay, well, in that case, then we have a whole slew of policies. So we're on our second reading, policy 4321. I'm going to turn over to you since, yes.
So all of these are second reads and we should be able to approve these tonight. Can we approve them en bloc? or-
Sure you can.
Okay. Policy number 4321, the Board of Education shall make available a free.
Leave to
Thank you.
wait to
Waive for further reading.
further
Yes.
reading. Thank you.
Policy 4321.3.
My computer's slower than you are. The Board of Education recognizes the right of parents and guardians.
Waive
of
for
a
further
student.
reading. Policy 4321.4.
That's gonna be approving the comments. I'm just gonna-
Well, these maybe just talk about what the titles are,
Yeah.
just individually.
Policy number 4321.4, appointment and compensation of impartial hearing officers. It shall be the policy of the school district to appoint and compensate impartial hearing officers required pursuant to Part 200 of the regulations of the Commissioner of Education in the following manner. 1, appointment of hearing officer.
Waive for further reading.
We're just gonna let you go.
It's fine, I like to read, I'm a big reader, it's okay.
Okay, right, next policy, 4321.5.
Policy number 4321.5, confidentiality and access to individualized education programs,
Move to waive
individualized
further reading
education
of
services
policy.
Well, yeah.
programs and service plans. Let me read that.
Yeah, let her just,
It was too
let her
easy.
like,
just
you know-
read the title so we know what it's about. Go ahead.
I read the title.
Okay. Next one is policy 4321.6.
Okay, policy number 4321.6, the availability of alternative format instructional materials for students with disabilities. The Board of Education recognizes its responsibility.
Waive for further reading.
Now we have the sweet spot. Last but not least, policy number 4321.7, the rights of students with disabilities under section 504. The Board of Education shall
Move to
ensure.
waive further reading of policy 4321.7.
And these are all policies we presented at the last meeting as well, and they're in a couple of weeks. In the meanwhile, for comments to be made, does anybody have any last minute input or comments or any of these policies that they'd like to table for discussion?
Oh, I think you did a very good job making all the changes.
And thank you to Lisa,
Thank you,
who
Lisa.
she and her team met with or discussed these changes with our attorneys in conjunction with changes in federal and state law. So those are that's the impetus to the amendments to the policies.
Okay. Any questions from the board? All right, that being said, can I please have a motion to accept all the policies that have been presented?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Now we have hearing on agenda items. I don't know if anybody has signed up. Okay. Well, regardless, each speaker would be permitted 3 minutes for their comments. The board will listen to comments, but they will not necessarily debate or discuss any items or comments made. We are not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters in open session. And that is it. Okay, does anybody from the board have any new business they'd like to discuss?
I'll mention briefly that we have the 100.
Did you sign up?
Did you sign? I'm sorry, I didn't see anybody sign up on the sheet.
Don't know,
Michelle
it's not that you're
Fasoli.
gonna have a comment until you hear what's being said, so that's why I didn't sign up. Michelle Fasolino. I have a comment on the Sailor program, which is an amazing program. I participate in the program, I go down and read the faces of the Sailor program. Both of my children participate in the Sailor program because Michael is in peer leadership and Ralphie volunteers in the Sailor program.
Okay, you're not allowed to mention
Okay.
specific
My
names.
children volunteer in the Sailor program. It's a great program. My comment is, while it is such a great program, just curious, as I understand that we need a second classroom, I just was wondering why we would reach out to other districts to bring children in from other districts. Again, I know it's a great program and other children could benefit from other districts to come into our district because we do such a good job. I'm just wondering why we wouldn't direct our efforts to a program that could possibly help children here in our own district that are already in our district, maybe that are struggling with 504s or IEPs that possibly need services in other areas where parents have to, jump through hoops to get children tested and even bring in lawyers to get their children tested to see if they need more help and programs. And they live in this district, and they're not getting services that they could possibly benefit from, but we're reaching out to other districts to bring children in to a program. So I'm going to actually quote Margaret, where she said we're flawed and we're behind the times in certain areas. So why not just concentrate and put our efforts into programs that would help our own district and children that are already in the district?
I think that this program does include students in our district.
I know that, I said that.
And because there are children moving up, that would benefit our students. As far as reaching out to other districts, we do accept tuition from those students, which ultimately does help our district. But I think, Lisa Shookman, I will defer to you for an answer on that because you are the expert.
Do we answer right? You want me to answer right now?
I can answer this very simple. This year we're bringing $820,000. That's 2% on our tax levy. Do you prefer to pay 2% more or invite people?
Well, I also, I'm sorry.
As simple as that.
No, what I was gonna say is I think, you talk about the various, the services and such. I think you're sort of apples and oranges because I think some of the services, there's the services, but I think this program is for kids who are more challenged than you're talking about. I think there's, the level of services, but it's a different group of kids. I think it's very much kids who have much greater needs than than some of the others. And I think you're talking about a much more generalized group of students as opposed to this program that's designed to help the kids who are much more challenged than some of the other kids that you might have in mind.
You might be challenged, but if you can't read, you're challenged in the world.
I really don't want to get into a whole discussion now at our board meeting because I think that this is something that really should be discussed either if you feel that there's a need for things, then I think the appropriate thing for you to do is to make an appointment with Lisa Shookman and discuss your concerns with her there. But as far as what we're doing with the Sailor program being extended, I think very briefly, Lisa, just for people in our community to understand, I would like you to give a very brief answer. And then Michelle, I think if you have any further concerns, that you make an appointment and meet with Lisa at another time.
So there's two things that I would say about the program. Number one, we have to do this in order for compliance because we will be out of compliance by state regulations of age-wise. Number two, why do we bring other kids in is because it's an expensive program. Here at Hendrick Hudson, they're very fortunate where they opened the program, it was very successful. Other schools have sent us, and as Enrique had said, you get that tuition. There's other schools that don't have as many students within their school, and that's why they can send them to us. That's why it's just expensive to do a program like this. And if we can help each other out, just like we send kids to Lakeland, we send kids to Ardsley, we do that as a component because it's cheaper sometimes than sending them to BOCES. So I think keeping them in a district versus keeping them out of a district and in a BOCES program where it's secluded is much different than us being able to work together as districts.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Do we have anybody else signed up?
Yes, hi. My name is Stella Nunziata. I have children in this district at the elementary level and at the middle school level. I am interested to know if you're going to be working on any other programs, specifically an anti-bullying program throughout the district at all levels, because I think that's something that comes up with students who are, at a deficit. And I think it doesn't have to be expensive. We have 2 bonds. Could we put some money towards an anti-bullying program?
I would like you to leave your contact information
Yes, I did.
available, and
you.
somebody from the district will return your, an answer to your question.
Thank you so
Either
much.
Mr. Hochreiter, Ms. Schuckman, we will make sure that that happens.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking out the time to come in and say what you have to say. Okay, that being said, I would like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
One second.
If there aren't any,
Yep,
oh,
let me just
sorry.
say one last thing on record that I didn't get to in the superintendent's
too.
report. On Saturday, our Hendrick
Oh,
Hudson
Wizards.
Hendrick Hudson Community Education Foundation is hosting one of their very major fundraisers. It is the Wizards. The Wizards are coming, the Harlem Wizards are coming to the high school Saturday at 7 o'clock. Come one, come all, watch a bunch of professional basketball players dunk on a bunch of lowly staff members.
Henhead All-Stars.
All-stars we aren't, but we're certainly good actors in the routine. So that's Saturday, 7 o'clock at the high school.
One more thing, sir. On December 8th, there's Breakfast with Frosty and Friends to support the cultural enrichment programs at all of our schools. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the high school, crafts, face painting, tattoos, photo booths. Be a really fun event.
Is that the three
And
the
also
PTAs
is
are
it
pulling
December
together?
6th,
Wonderful.
the Jack McGuire basketball
I
tournament.
don't have that on me.
I
don't
believe it's, yeah,
But
I believe the
think
Jack
you should
McGuire.
Check the school calendar.
Yep.
Now would
Right.
be a good time to check your calendar because so much is
Always,
going on.
because things are constantly going up that we don't even realize. So, anyway, anything else? Okay. Then can I now have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.